the highlands of Japan. Snow monkeys struggle to survive the harsh winter. Our film this time is one of the most remarkable and moving we've ever had on nature. It's a film you will never forget. It was made over a period of 9 years, which makes it remarkable enough. But it wasn't made for television. It was part of an important research project by Japanese scientists studying a group of macaques, Japan's famous snow monkeys. The scientists made some important discoveries. For example, they documented complex social relationships among the monkeys, which reveal the actual beginnings of culture in these primates, new learned behaviors which were passed on from one generation to another. But because of this film, scientists and laymen alike may remember more about one very special monkey than all that new scientific knowledge. They and we will remember Mozu. The icy Shiga highlands of central Japan. During the long winter, steady snowfall envelops the mountains. Deep in these snowbound woods lives a troop of Japanese macaques, snow monkeys. And for one particular monkey, life was a special challenge. She was born into this harsh mountain environment, crippled with severe deformities. Her name is Mozu. Japanese macaques are found farther north than any other primate except man. They live in tightly knit social groups, rarely leaving the troop or falling behind on the long treks to favored feeding areas. Usually ground dwellers, the troop takes to the trees to make winter traveling easier. Snowdrifts are dangerous obstacles for monkeys only 2 feet tall. But Mozu cannot travel through the trees. She must crawl through the deep snow on her elbows and knees. Every day, the monkeys descend from the mountains into the Jokoku Valley to feed. Mozu must keep up. Mozu was born in the spring of 1971. Her mother, Maury, already had 6 offspring, but Mozu was her first daughter. None of her limbs had the normal number of bones, and those she had were bent and twisted. The cause of these deformities is still not known for certain, but pesticide poisoning is suspected. These birth defects deeply concerned the scientists. Other macaques were being born with similar, though much less severe, handicaps. And even though predators no longer roamed the highlands, Mozu's disabilities were so extreme, no one knew if she could survive. But with Maury's dedication and her own unusual stamina, she pulled through the tenuous years of childhood. And when she was 7, 2 years older than normal, she became a mother. Her first offspring, a female, was named Momiji. It was feared that Momiji too would be deformed, but her limbs were perfect, a healthy baby. The scientists, however, were afraid that the added responsibility of a child would be too much for Mozu, even with her mother Maury's help. Spring blooms in the Shiga Highlands. In traditional Japanese culture, the mountains and forests were home to the gods. Monkeys were mythical symbols with their own kami or soul, spirits of the forest. This spring, Mozu has Momiji to care for. To prevent her baby from getting hurt, Mozu walks with her limbs extended as much as possible. With Momiji clinging to her belly, she follows the troop. This constant effort is exhausting for Mozu, but staying with the troop is all important. Troop life offers many benefits: protection, help in finding food and caring for youngsters, and the companionship so important to all primates. Jigoku Valley Monkey Park, a privately owned preserve where scientists and tourists come to observe the monkeys. The monkeys gather at the park's feeding station, where they receive small handouts of fruit and other foods. This is Tonga, the leader of Mozu's troop, the dominant individual in a highly structured society. Mozu finally arrives. Carrying Momiji on her back, she descends the steep wall to join the others. Mothers and their offspring gather to groom each other. Now 1 month old, Momiji begins to meet other babies, secure that Mozu is nearby. Under the guidance of their mothers, the babies learn how to treat each other. Their mothers' own attitudes and self-confidence are an example to the children. A high-ranking mother will step in to protect her child when playmates get too rough. Youngsters often take on their mother's social standing as they begin to find their own place in the troop. Still wobbly, Momiji explores her surroundings, but she never strays far from Mozu. After a morning of play, the afternoon sunshine is just right for a nap. It's a quiet moment for mothers and babies. Time out from the busy life of the troop. Now 2 months old, Momiji starts to nibble the green leaves. She will learn to eat by copying the adults, but she won't be completely weaned for another 10 months. After another month, the babies spend more and more time together. They're growing stronger, more independent. The play is rough and tumble. The babies are developing the physical skills necessary for survival. And they're sorting out the intricate rules of macaque society. It's perhaps the most important stage of their social development, when their relationships in the troop are established. But to them, it's just playing. Most monkeys avoid the water, but macaques take the plunge right from the start. Momiji is taken to the river by a young female. Juveniles often kidnap a baby to practice childcare. But a young babysitter isn't quite the same as a protective mother. Safely back with Mozu, Momiji is comforted as Mozu grooms her. Grooming is a way of expressing affection and an important means of strengthening the bonds and lessening tensions between troop members. Tonga shakes a tree to catch the troop's attention. It's a signal that it's time for the troop to move on to a new foraging area. The size of their home range varies with the seasons, and they travel several miles a day within their range as they look for food. The whole troop departs. The year moves into autumn, a rich time in the mountains. After a lazy summer of feeding on leaves, the monkeys become more active. The woods are full of fruits and nuts, and they forage all day to build up their fat reserves for the coming winter. It's Momiji's first autumn. As the troop moves faster, Mozu finds it more difficult to keep up. She stops often to rest and to eat. The bounty won't last long, and to survive the winter, each monkey must make the most of it. The autumn afternoon deepens into evening, to be overtaken at last by a winter sky. Winter arrives early in the mountains. The first snows fall in November. By December, it's a silvery landscape of snow and ice. The only food available now is tree bark and twigs. Huddled in their winter coats, the monkeys battle their growing hunger. Mozu cannot climb out on the branches, and so has only what's close to the ground to eat. The bark is tough and unpalatable, but she must consume as much as she can for her own sake and Momiji's. Once again, it's time for the troop to move on. This time, however, it's not for foraging. They all head down to the monkey park for a special reprieve from winter. The ordered line reflects the highly organized structure of the troop. For Mozu, a march in the snow is extremely difficult and painful. But the burden of raising Momiji seems only to have made her stronger and more determined. Their destination is worth all the effort. A hot springs pool, built just for the monkeys, one of the great attractions of the park. These waters are piped in from a natural spring nearby, a toasty 110 degrees. For the exhausted Mozu, the warmth seems especially soothing. In Shinto belief, wild monkeys commune with the spirits dwelling in the stones and running water. Messengers to the gods, they're the very image of wisdom. Slowly, winter begins to fade. Japanese soraus browse the budding twigs. These goat antelopes are well adapted to the heavy snowfall of the mountains, but they too eagerly await the first green shoots of spring. When this winter was almost over, a sad, unfortunate event took place. A very young mother, Marulius, had given birth prematurely. The baby was stillborn, but Marulius carried the lifeless little body everywhere, as though it were alive. Clutching the dead infant tightly, she refused to part with it. Usually, mothers abandon a dead baby shortly after birth, But Marulius showed more than the usual motherly devotion. A week went by. Finally, park rangers retrieved the corpse and buried it. But Marulius was distraught. Frantically, she searched for her lost baby. As the last snows fell, Marulius's stricken cries echoed down the valley. It was spring again. Momiji was 2 years old, and Mozu had a new baby. This time it was a boy, and he was named Monshiro. He was a beautiful baby, perfectly formed, but Monshiro's life was brief. When he was only 2.5 months old, he fell directly into the scalding source of the hot springs. He died instantly. The following spring, Mozu had another baby. Snow monkeys need 2 years for child rearing and usually have a baby every other year. The baby, a male, was named Moano, and he grew up healthy and strong. Mozu's family was growing. And 2 years later, another daughter, Monami. Mozu now had 1 son and 2 daughters. None of her children had any deformities, and Mozu herself seemed to be even stronger. She was an excellent mother. With great spirit, she had overcome her handicaps to meet the challenge of raising a fine family. Surrounded by her daughters, Mozu was now an established matriarch. Her son, Moano, had left to join a group of juvenile males. In macaque society, it's the females that form the family structure of the troop. Mori, Mozu's mother, was growing old. She was now about 25. In human age, she was well over 70. Aging snow monkeys sometimes leave the troop to forage on their own. Just why they leave after a lifetime in the troop is a mystery. And deprived of physical and emotional contact, they seldom live for long. Mori decides to take her separate path. She continued her solitary existence for another 2 years, an unusually long time, and then was never seen again. Another summer has passed, and it's autumn once more, harvest time. The males become more aggressive at this time of year. They take first pick of the choice fruits, keeping the best for themselves. Only a few adult males reside with the troop year-round. The others live on the edge of the troop in bachelor groups. Males also change troops, seeking higher status or greater mating opportunities as they move among the groups. Social ranking among males is highly competitive, and they form allies in the troop to improve their position. The banana-like akebe is a special treat. Even though the akebe is not fully ripe, it's so delicious that he can't wait. Status among males takes on a special significance in the fall because autumn is the mating season. A female in estrus calls to attract the attention of the males. Outsiders to the troop will now advance and challenge resident males for access to females. Nanda, the current leader of Mozu's troop, waits for challengers. An outsider approaches, ready for battle. Nanda is defeated. The fights are brief but brutal. Nanda limps back to the troop, wounded in body and in dignity. The outsider parades in victory. He will stay to mate, but may not choose to remain with the troop for long. Some males join a group only for the mating season, preferring to remain bachelors the rest of the year. Momiji is now almost 6 and is ready to mate. She will breed many times during the mating season and not necessarily with the same male. It's time for her to start the next generation of Mozu's family. Another autumn passed, and the following winter was especially hard. Many deer starved that year, and the monkeys too were hard-pressed to survive. This is old Tumo, once the troop's highest-ranking female. She's now 26 and too frail for this harsh weather. Like Mori before her, she leaves the troop to face her final winter alone. The following spring, Momiji was expecting her first baby, Mozu's first grandchild. The average gestation period for snow monkeys is 6 months. The baby was due in mid-May. As Momiji's time grew near, the scientists studying the troop became anxious that Mozu's deformities might reoccur in the next generation. Monkeys usually give birth at night. Hoping to record the event, the scientists followed them with infrared cameras. Among the sleeping monkeys was a young female in labor. It was not Momiji, but another member of the troop. As they watched, the scientists obtained the first film of a snow monkey giving birth in the wild. The first cries of a newborn baby. At dawn, they found the new mother carrying her baby, the umbilical cord and placenta still attached. A more experienced mother might dispose of the afterbirth right away. The baby has lovely big eyes, though they're not yet able to focus. But in just one day, it will take its first real look at the world. Momiji was now a week overdue, and the scientist grew more concerned. Finally, they found her in labor. But she was struggling. It looked like it would be a difficult delivery. There was nothing to do but wait. At last, they saw the tiny hands. The little body emerged. But something was wrong. The baby did not move and made no sound. Momiji cleaned it with great care, but there was no response. The baby was stillborn. The next day, Momiji appeared carrying her dead baby. Had it lived, it would have been healthy and normal, but it was bigger than usual, and during labor, the birth canal had not opened wide enough. The baby had suffocated. But like Marulius had done, Momiji continued to care for it tenderly. Sitting in the shade, she gently groomed it. Gradually, she seemed to realize it was no use. She kept the baby for 2 more days, and on the 4th morning, she abandoned it. Luckier mothers brought their infants to play in the sunshine on the banks of the river. The loss of an infant is not uncommon among snow monkeys, and life for the troop went on. But Momiji sat apart, depressed. Mozu and the rest of the family soon joined her, and in the company of her mother and siblings, Momiji slowly regained her spirits. Another year had passed in the Shiga Highlands. It was spring again, and this time Momiji was holding a beautiful, healthy baby. She was finally a mother, and there was no sign of deformities in Mozu's first grandchild. It was a female and was named Momiko. She would grow up to be a healthy member of the troop. The troop continues to thrive. Now 215 strong, it roams the rich environment of the highlands with 15 other troops. And it's another spring for Mozu. Despite her advancing years, she has managed to have another child, a son named Mozu. Mozu was never expected to survive the difficult obstacles she faced, but with great determination, she has maintained her place in the troop. Mozu's family gathers together on the banks of the river. 3 generations of snow monkeys. This beautiful family is not only Mozu's creation, but the source of her strength, her reward for the efforts of a lifetime. Today, 5 children and 2 grandchildren now nurture Mozu in her later years. And sometimes, science and sentiment come together. During the 9 years of filming, scientists learned a great deal about macaque society and their family life. But for them and the Japanese filmmakers, the strongest memories are of tenderness, devotion, and a special courage. They remember Mozu.